you saw the very best players the entire country has to offer, and you saw it throughout the course of the weekend.
He's growing, he's improving at such a rapid rate. He's going to be a very good player.
This guy's a cross between Sean Marion and Lamar Odom. He's a 6'8" lefty, a high-level athlete, but also got a little bit of point-forward skills in him as he can handle and pass the ball extremely well. At this point, they are simply the standard by which everyone else is judged in prep school basketball. He's considering the likes of Michigan, North Carolina, Kentucky, Kansas.
Welcome to the latest episode of the Upside Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Finkelstein, and on this week's episode, we are very lucky to have Georgia Tech head coach Josh Pastner join us. Coach, thanks so much for making the time.
Yep, thank you very much, Adam. Appreciate you having me there. Sorry for just fixing my computer so the people can not just focus on my curls up there. You know what I mean? So they can make sure they see the GT the GT logo. So
there it is. There it is.
Thanks for having me, and looking forward to talking some hoops.
Yeah, absolutely. So the GT logo has been out this week. It's been a good week for you guys. First and foremost, though, how's everybody? Everybody safe and healthy down there? You guys doing all right?
Yeah, no, everyone's well, and you know, I'm a big believer in one day at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And prior to COVID, I'm a big believer in one day at a time. So, but even more so than now, that saying is about as true as ever. You know, it's literally one day at a time, and that's where your focus is, because the objective is at this point just to hope to even get to the game floor. And there's no, you know, obviously you're at your kind of own team's mercy in a sense to make sure everyone, you know, tries to stay as healthy as they can, but you're also at the opponent's mercy.
Sure.
And you've seen right now there's been some cancellations around the country for college basketball, and we haven't even started playing yet. But in projecting where they'll be in the first few weeks based on some, unfortunately, some positive cases of COVID, you know, you start seeing some games starting to cancel just even start of the season.
Yeah, no, it's uncertain times to say the least, with you know, unfortunately the positive rate continuing to rise across the country. So, you know, challenging times for sure. If there is such a thing as a silver lining in times like this, I think the recruiting class that you were just able to put together is got to be a breath of fresh air, if you will, for not just you and your program, but for all of Georgia Tech. This is, if I'm not mistaken, according to the numbers, your highest rated recruiting class since arriving at Georgia Tech. And I know, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I am wrong, you got all those signatures already. So talk to me about this group and why you're so excited to bring them to Atlanta. Yeah,
Adam. Well, first let me say this, you know, and you know, with recruiting, and you know, you understand this in recruiting, that recruiting is such that the evaluation is so important in recruiting. Mm-hmm. And I think people don't talk enough about that, because a lot of times what can happen is the player 1 through 20, in a sense, or, you know, that's ranked 1 through 20. I mean, everyone knows they're pretty good, and
right.
And, you know, but it's really the kind of the diamond in the rough, the sleeper, the person who's ranked maybe 90th in the country, but who, based on evaluation, could be better than the person who's ranked 25th. You know, just based on evaluation and what they could become. And so I think we've done a good job at Georgia Tech at evaluating to this point, including our entire time here. However, this class, as you mentioned, rankings-wise, numbers-wise, you know, really gives us a great boost. And so not only do I think we did a good job evaluating this class, but they come in, these three guys that we signed, Debo Coleman, Miles Kelly, and Jalen Moore, all three guys that we signed, you know, I actually think they're almost, even though they're ranked in decent positions around the country, I actually think they're even better than maybe some of their rankings, and they have a chance to continue to grow. And so, you know, Debo Coleman's from the state of Florida. We have actually known him, or I had known him from my time when I was a head coach at Memphis. He attended our camps. And
Wow.
And that's, again, you never know in relationships how that goes.
Right.
Miles Kelly is a local kid here who's now at Hargrave. He's from the Atlanta area, who I think's, again, a little bit underrated. He's long. He's kind of, came on the scene this summer.
He's an upside guy, right? You see the frame. He's not physically mature yet.
And he can really score. He can shoot it. He's got great length. And then Jalen Moore, who's in Alabama, just outside of Birmingham, but an elite athlete, really quick jumper, and and his best basketball is ahead of him. And like Debo Coleman, who I've known since his days at Memphis, is a really good player. Can really shoot it, put the ball in the basket, got great size. And what's great about this class is all three guys are 6'5" and above. All three guys can shoot the ball, and in this day and age, you got to be able to score the ball.
No doubt.
And all three guys through our, which I believe is our player development system here at Georgia Tech. I like to say the things we do is a 5-star player development. I think with that continuation of our development with them, that we'll have a chance to, for them to be really good as they get here and they continue in their progression of their development once they're here at Georgia Tech. And the other thing, Adam, at Georgia Tech, look, we're the only school that plays Division I football and basketball that doesn't have a bachelor's of arts degree. Everything's a bachelor's of science. So everything here at Georgia Tech it's a math and science school. We're known for engineering. We're like MIT. We're an elite engineering school, and we have great programs all throughout. And so technology, it's Georgia Tech Institute of Technology. So we're a very technology-based school. I say all that to say that not only do you need to be a good enough player to play in the ACC here, Adam, but you got to be able to handle the academic work as well too. Right. So so it's finding that balance of who's good enough to play in the ACC, but at the same time being able to do the job academically, and especially in those areas of studies, because it is such a heavy math and science school. You've got to find the prospects that have an interest in those areas.
And with the, if I'm not mistaken, even before you got to Georgia Tech, I used to hear stories among some of your predecessors about the core requirements that the school has. So everybody's got to take a certain foundation of courses in those. And I don't want to go too deep on this tangent, but just to further illustrate your point, I mean, everybody's got to take a certain amount of those classes, regardless of what they study within the course catalog. Is that right?
Yeah, no, that is correct, Adam. And I like to say you can't hide anyone here at Georgia Tech in a sense. I mean, you're going to have to, getting a degree from here, it's you've got to put your hard hat on, your working boots on, roll your sleeves up, because it's going to take hard work, especially, and then on top of that, being an athlete. Yeah. And I've told people this at Georgia Tech. Geniuses come from this school. I mean, it's a real honor and privilege to be here. I mean, look, Adam, the closest thing I could be to Georgia Tech is the basketball coach. I couldn't be a student here. When I see some of the math homework these guys are doing, I'm like, hey man, that's why it's beyond what I could.
Right.
But they've also they found water on Mars that was from Georgia Tech. So
wow.
So anyway, we've had multiple astronauts, and obviously Georgia Tech's connected to NASA with everything because of the engineering and all that good stuff. But I say all that to say, yes, this school, it would be pre-COVID. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I think we were maybe one or two in the country, or top 5 with least online classes prior to COVID, obviously.
Right.
And people said, man, they couldn't. I said, yeah, everything they were doing was in-person classroom instruction. There was no online classes. And I would tell people, look, the people that are building the bridges, or transportations, or they're building roads, or that are engineers, you prefer for them to be in the classroom to probably learn. The people that are building the NASA's rocket ships or the spaceships, you probably want them to be in the classroom more so than just doing an online class, if that makes sense.
Well, and how cool is that your guys get a chance to meet and network with those people, and then still be able to play ACC level basketball.
I mean, and not only for our young men or the student athletes that come here, the opportunity for the doors that open for them to be at Georgia Tech with just the students and the alumni because of who they are. But heck, for me, I mean, like I'm in like a kid in the candy store because I've met some different astronauts and I've been able to ask them questions about outer space and their training. And I've talked to some other people and these engineers, people who've worked on things, within like airplanes and missiles. And I mean, and here I am just asking questions like, hey, how does this work? It's pretty cool. And just to even be the basketball coach, to have a chance to meet some of those, I'd like to say geniuses, and pretty cool to be able to do that.
Without question. Now, you mentioned pre-COVID with in terms of courses, but recruiting looked a lot different pre-COVID and during COVID as well. So to be able to put together this class with the emphasis on the evaluation process that you mentioned, how did your internal process change, both in terms of evaluating these prospects and then in terms of the sales component, for lack of a better word, of the recruiting process?
Adam, first off, I've always said this. I've had great assistant coaches. I'm going to my 12th year as a head coach this year.
Wow.
And whether it's at Memphis or now at Georgia Tech, I've always had great assistant coaches. The reason we've been able to do a good job recruiting, whether it's been at Memphis or here at Georgia Tech, I've been very fortunate with really good coaches, really good assistant coaches who've done a great job. And them plus the current student athletes are your best recruiters. And so, nothing changes for this year. I've got great coaches, great assistants again, and obviously the student athletes are they're a great represent your program, but also sell your program as well too. And so, yes, you're right. And Adam, this pre-COVID, when COVID happened or when things got shut down, should I say, in that March period, that was a big recruiting period heading into April.
Yeah.
Because the April period for my entire, I'm 43, and I can remember, before I became even in college, I was coaching in AAU basketball. I was, so I've been in this summer scene, grassroots scene, spring and summer for almost 30 years now, and even back to playing. And so April was a big month, and then for recruiting, April and July are the two big months. For that to be shut down was, for coaches to be such in a routine,
right?
It was awkward. And then to rely on your evaluations for that class, because for us, like, I'm a big believer in seeing people live, evaluating, making sure, because you can see some games online. Well, you can't tell the actual size.
Right.
You can't tell, okay, is the team they're playing against, the guy that he's guarding, how quick is he? Is he,
right.
You can't, instead of being, live action. And so we were fortunate that a couple of the guys that we signed, we've been able to see him prior, but also, man, we really studied film.
Yeah.
From high school film from the previous year on top of all what they played this summer, and into the fall. So we really did that. And then you had to rely on the Zoom calls. And it was sort of an old fashioned, old school, kind of trying to just work as hard as you can and just be different and innovative with the Zoom stuff, but more so just kind of pound them every day and just kind of show the recruits, hey, we really want you. Here's why. And not only to our setting up of our vision, but also the time and effort putting into them of the phone calls, the texting, the FaceTimes,
right.
things, all those type of things. So it's totally different. How that will change moving forward whenever we can get back to somewhat normal of recruiting, when you can go back off campus, I don't know. I think things will, I don't know how that will change. You might have a better feel on that than I do. Like, will it ever go back to how it was, prior to COVID?
Just for context, it had changed a lot in the last couple of years. We weren't in Vegas last summer. Things had already changed so dramatically that within the last couple of years that this is just kind of an added layer on top of it. And obviously it's a significant layer, but right now, I think the NCAA just shut it down through April. And so right now you're just hoping that we're back out there for April. But what I've said from day one is if the NCAA is going to be reactive to the statistics, and rightfully so, the statistics they see about the virus throughout the country. And when rates are increasing like they are throughout the country, there's no way we're going to recruit. I mean, I think, and then the next thing is going to be, how does that impact the season? We don't need to get into that, but as long, if people want college basketball, they want recruiting, then everybody needs to kind of do their part to stay safe and take the proper precautions here.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, I knew with the recruiting, I think there's a real possibility that I know they're going to move it through April. I had heard that they were just going to shut it down all the way through June and then start again in July, and move into that field. So I could see that happening where,
Sure.
They just say, okay, through June we're shut down, but by July, hopefully by then we can get back out and have recruiting. But you're right, at this present time for this season, Adam, it's going to be interesting to see, and I say interesting because in my time, I would never have thought going in preparation for a schedule. Can you believe this? That I've been talking with our staff in scheduling. Do we need to leave open weeks open for cancellation games so we can replay games?
Yeah.
And would you have ever even thought of something like that, Adam?
No, it's like Major League Baseball, right? Yeah, I mean, you got to have like a rain date.
Like you never even thought of, like you would have to be thinking, okay, should we keep 3 weekends open at the end of the season in case we have to reschedule, cancel it? I mean, to even think of that was not fathomable, a few months ago. And then on top of that, the amount of time where after practice, like when practice is done, I can only let you three guys are allowed in the locker room to shower right now.
Oh wow.
And then you got to leave. Then the next group can come in because the congregating in one location in a closed environment in a sense. So I would never think I'd be saying, hey, you can't shower right now, but you three can. Once you leave, then you next three can go shower. I mean, just all those things that you would think that you would never even fathom. Or, hey, when you leave practice, you have to go through that door. You can't go through this door. But when you're entering in, you got to go through this way, not that way. So I think all that, as you had mentioned, to be able to get to the season, I mean, it's more than just strategy of X's and O's. It's really the strategy of being able to even get to the game and doing all the mitigating things you can to put yourself in a position to be able to play.
And, I think that's one of the most underestimated aspects of being a college coach and especially being a college head coach is the amount of non-basketball responsibilities you have to manage on a daily basis. And to your point, that's only magnified during this obviously unprecedented time. Coach, you mentioned your AAU roots. You said this is going into your 12th season as a head coach. Before you were a head coach, you were widely known as one of, if not the best recruiting assistant coaches in the country. And if you will, in our kind of last few minutes here, I wanted to dig back into that because I know we just lost Lute Olson, who you were especially close to. And I just wanted to talk about that time and your mindset going from an AAU coach to one of the best recruiters in the country as one of the youngest assistant coaches at a high major level, and give us some perspective about how all that went down.
Yeah, Adam, look, I mean, during my time at AAU basketball and grassroots, I was coaching, at the Peach Jam and all the different events. And I always was, had a great opportunity to make good relationships with the other fellow coaches who are still into the game today, who are still coaching today. And so I've had a lot of opportunities to be able to continue to build those relationships. So that helped. And I'd also say, and I'm a guy that fully gets it. Like I fully get it. Look, I was an assistant at the University of Arizona for Lute Olson. The guy was one of the greatest coaches ever to coach in the history of sport. I was recruiting to coach Lute Olson. I mean, and so that made my job, it made me look good because I was recruiting to him. They weren't coming to play for Josh Pastner. They were coming to play for Lute Olson. The same thing when I was an assistant with John Calipari. Man, being able to sell John Calipari, that was much easier. It was much easier to sell those two than myself a lot of the times. And so I know that I was very fortunate, very lucky, like to be able to get to start out as an assistant at the University of Arizona. After I worked my way up, but to be able to get there, I know I skipped a lot of steps, and I was very fortunate. I worked hard, but I know that I was in a right place, right time, and then to become an assistant at Memphis, and then to become the head coach at Memphis, Adam. Most people don't get that first job like that. That's very, very rare at 31, and then you're following someone who's done it, at the highest of all high levels. And so I've been fortunate. I've had some doors open for me. Yes, it's on me to take advantage of when the doors open. However, I also know that people were well more deserving and more ready to be an assistant at Arizona or an assistant at Memphis or the head coach at Memphis. Or even the head coach in an ACC school at Georgia Tech than myself. But I've been fortunate along the way. That is why, Adam, I don't take things for granted. I don't forget where I started, and I keep things in a really good perspective. I know things can be taken away at any split second. So that's why I love being a head coach. I love my job. When people complain about, I have heard this from people complain about recruiting, being on the road, recruiting, and those type of things. I would just I loved it. I would go to games at 8 a.m. to start that there was no reason for me to be there because we weren't recruiting any. I just liked going because I love basketball.
Yeah.
And I would, Adam, you would see me, and I love staying there till the last game at 10 at night, just because even if we're not recruiting anyone, I loved my job. I love what we do, and I love watching basketball. I love being around hoops. It's something that's so fun, and so I miss being out on the road recruiting. I know most people are like, they would always complain. I loved it. I loved recruiting. I loved being out. Loved being around people. So, but being around Lute Olson and John Calipari, being able to recruit to them was pretty darn cool. It made the job that much easier, being able to recruit to Hall of Fame guys.
And now you grew up, because I want to give you grew up around the game too. You grew up in AAU gyms. I mean, your dad is done as good of a job as anyone in the business of basketball.
Yeah.
Did those experiences give you some unique context, relationships or opportunity to help you get to a position where you're an assistant for someone like Lute Olson in your 20s?
Absolutely. Actually, in the Houston Hoops was a team that my dad had actually started when we were when I was younger, and it was just really to spend more time with me, and then it blossomed into a whole new to a program that has gone on for a long time, one of the best programs in the country, and my father then got involved in the tournament business and had run tons of massive tournaments. And I remember when at 13 years of age, when I was at the AAU Nationals, and all the guys would want to go to the mall afterwards after our game. I would want to stay in the gym and watch all the games, and I would be writing up of all the different players I would see, and I would actually send things out. I had a scouting service at the time called the Josh Pastner Scouting Service.
How old were you?
I was 13.
Wow.
And I was writing things of the guys I would see, and these young 13, 14-year-olds, and I would send it to coaches, and I did that because and I look back at some of those reports, and it's pretty cool to see some guys that gone on and played in the NBA and all that good stuff.
You still have them? You're 13-year-old.
Yeah, I got them some boxes in my attic. But
that's awesome.
But that being said, I was just a gym rat. I love being in the gym, and where most people when the game's over, they're ready to go to the hotel and go to the mall. I was ready to stay there, and I wanted to watch the next game and the game after that. And if anyone really sees me in the recruit, there's times I just go to the games. I've seen this where people say, "Hey, who you're recruiting here?" I'm like, "Oh, nobody. I'm just watching. I just two good teams just playing against each other."
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
That's just kind of how I am on that.
So, Coach, this is I will leave you with this question, and it's something I like to ask every head coach we have on the program, or any high achiever in any relative field. As committed and passionate as you are about basketball, I always love to ask if there's any books, documentaries, podcasts, anything that other people could kind of scratch an intellectual itch, anything that has been really helpful for you in terms of any type of personal development, anything like that with regard to favorite books, movies, podcasts, anything along that nature, anything of that nature?
No, that's a great question, Adam. And you've known me, and people that know me, I'm a big believer in positive energy. I'm all about positive energy, and I never look at the glass as even half filled. I always look at it as overflowing. I've always kind of had that mindset, and so anyway, one of my favorite books, and I always tell the gentleman that I'm his biggest supporter. I don't get paid for him or anything, but I always tell, and he writes great books. Is John Gordon? There's a book called The Energy Bus, and it's a great book. I would recommend anyone, and people probably, some have read it, but I would recommend people to read it because it's all about being an energy giver, not being an energy taker. And he uses the word an energy vampire, where you're kind of sucking the life out of somebody if you have negative, body language or negative, negative energy. And so I really believe everything in life's all about energy, and it's the same thing in basketball. Everything's about energy. And so I would recommend that book. It's The Energy Bus by John Gordon. It's a great book, and it really just talks about energy and everything in life. And I'm just such a big believer in this. Everything's about energy, and that's why my number one thing, people always ask, what are you looking for in recruiting? And I always say motor. And I said, well, what's motor? What's your and I always say my definition of motor is 100% effort, 100% of the time. But I said, I can visually see what motor is. I know what motor is when I see it. And I can see it and know. And I said, that is motor. And any walk of life is what motor is. And when someone has a motor, man, it's a pretty darn good thing. And usually the people who have high motors are high self-achievers and have high internal driven. They're highly self-motivated. No matter what it is in their life, they're driven to be. They want to be the best at it on anything, and that's why that motor is always moving.
That's good stuff. The latest addition to the High Major Book Club. Coach, you've been very generous with your time. I know the season is right around the corner, so thank you very much. Congratulations on that incoming recruiting class, and good luck in the coming season.
Thank you, Adam. Really appreciate it. Stay well, stay safe, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Coach. You too. All right, everybody, that is Georgia Tech head coach Josh Pastner. I'm your host, Adam Finkelstein, and thank you, as always, for listening to the Upside Podcast.